All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. My name is Ronald, of course. Welcome to another BEL Session. BEL Session number 5. So we're doing good. Today for this session, we have a very good friend of mine, longtime friend of mine, Jeff. I think we've known each other for
Almost 8 years. Is it
wow,
2012? Yeah,
man. It's been 8 years already, man. I guess
yeah.
kind of feel like we kind of met each other not too long ago, but 8 years, just a very good friend of mine. 8 years, we met each other in higher education, working at the same university, Albany State to be exact. And so Jeff has been in higher ed just as long, about roughly the same time I've been in higher ed, and has moved through multiple positions and very successful in higher ed education and education in general. And so for you guys and ladies who are in education, he's definitely a great connect for you because he's well versed in higher education and now secondary education as well. So I don't want to give your whole bio. I don't know if you plan to do that, but I'll go ahead and let you introduce yourself. But before we get started, again, everybody, if you have any questions, make sure that you submit them in the chat room. We'll get to them at some point. Jeff will go through his presentation, and then towards the end, we'll take your questions. But if you have questions and you don't want to forget what they are, you can go ahead and just write it in the chat in the meantime, and we'll get to it at some point. And then, of course, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'll send the link in there so you can do that. And Jeff also has a book that we'll talk about in a little bit that you all might be able to take away to learn some stuff as well. So without further ado, guys, I want you all to give a big round of applause, even though we can't hear you, to my good friend, Mr. Jeffrey Pierce II.
Oh man, appreciate you, Ronald. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to come on here before I get started and just share my face so that you can put a name with the face. For the duration of the presentation, I'll kind of go into hibernation mode. I don't want my gestures to serve as a distraction. But at the end of the presentation, when we have the Q&A piece, I'll come back on live. So thank you guys for being here, and thank you, Ronald, for this opportunity to share. So Maya Angelou, the late poet, she once said that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So when I normally start off these presentations, I like to start with that quote from her because I think it's so, there's so much connectiveness in that as it relates to, customer service. And that is pretty much what we're going to talk about today, 5 ways to create a culture of service within your organization or your business. So because I respect you guys' time, I won't delay any further. So we're going to get right into the information that you guys came here to learn about.
And before
So
you go into that, Jeff,
yeah.
after you give your intro, if you can probably just talk a little bit about what they should expect to learn today. I'm seeing customer service in general, which I think is very big in Haitian culture, but I definitely want you to give a spiel on that once you finish introducing yourself.
Absolutely. That's the next slide.
Oh, my bad.
No, you're good. You're good. So who is Jeffrey, right? I take pride in calling myself the customer service visionary, whether that be when I'm working with small businesses or whether I'm working with higher education professionals. I've been a husband for the last 6 years to my beautiful wife, Ray. I've been a father for the last 5 years to my son, Jace, who is the biggest ball of energy that you can expect from any 5-year-old. I've contributed a number of times to a higher education magazine where I've submitted articles about customer service. In particular, I've been the recipient of 2 awards that highlight my dedication and my commitment for my display of excellent customer service. And as Ronald mentioned, I'm the author of a book that talks about customer service and it's titled Be My Guest, a guide for creating and ultimate service experience. And I'll talk a little bit more about what you can learn in that book towards the end of the presentation. But as Ronald alluded to, enough about me and more about what we're going to go into. But first, just some webinar etiquette. Ronald mentioned that you guys have to keep your microphones on mute, so he's in charge of that. And as he mentioned too, if you have questions, type them into the chat, and we'll address those towards the end of the presentation. So what you can expect to learn from today's session or webinar is you can expect to walk away with your own personal definition of customer service. You can expect to learn a new and easy to remember customer service philosophy that I believe can really kind of like shape your mind state. It's interesting once I explain it, this philosophy, how it can adjust how you engage with those you serve in your respective businesses. And of course, you can expect to learn the 5 ways to create a culture of service. Now, before I move forward, I will mention too, what you can also expect is this not to be like your typical webinar or session where it's just me talking and sharing and throwing information at you. So expect to engage within the chat throughout the presentation. I love feedback. Normally I have a live audience where I can reach out and touch folks to really drive home a few points. But with this webinar format, please engage during the chat when we get to those portions of the presentation. So first, what is customer service, right? Customer service is this extremely long definition that you see on the slide that I will tell you, do not bother reading. I won't waste your time with reading it. And you shouldn't waste your time reading it either. And it's not that I necessarily disagree with this particular definition of customer service, but more so, I believe that customer service can be summed up in fewer words, right? So let's just scratch this definition altogether, and let's just kind of go into our first engagement activity, where I just like some feedback from you guys. And so think about the work that you do with your business, your organization, and create your personal definition of customer service, and simply share it into the chat. Take about anywhere between 30 to 45 seconds to come up with your personal definition, and just share that into the chat.
And Jeff, just to just repeat what you said, I guess, so everybody can hear what you said. You want them to, in the chat room, explain or define what they think customer service is, right?
Or their personal definition, yes. So just, what is your personal definition of customer service? And simply type that into the chat.
Okay.
So that everyone can see.
All right, gotcha. So everybody heard that. Go ahead and give Jeff what your personal definition of customer service is. Let me see some answers in the chat room. Tell us what you think customer service is. Or no chata dinu kisa okwe kisa customer service here. Bano definition. No chatla.
Thanks, Ronald. I appreciate that. Even if we just get one from the audience, that would be great.
Customer service. All right. And so I'll give mine while we're waiting for some people to actually give their definitions of customer service. My personal definition of customer service, I don't even think I've ever actually thought about that. but it's pretty much, in my definition, the way you actually simply serve your customers, whether that be in a, and it's also the, how can I say, the tone that you set and the kind of environment that you set for your company to company's customer service. So I always like to go back to the way China actually serve their customers, because they do it in a very servant way. They really hold the customer up on a pedestal and believe that the customer is always first and always right, to a degree. Not always right literally, but
Right.
they literally put the customer above everything else, because they know the customers are the lifeline of their business. So
Right. No, no, I appreciate you sharing that. And, you know, that's, that's absolutely correct. Right. And I'm saying it's correct because that is your personal definition. And the point that I'm making with that is customer service first starts with you as the individual, right? There are different styles of customer service, and we all have our style. So first and foremost, by you creating or setting your definition, that's going to be in alignment with your style as it relates to customer service. And it's also an accountability tool that you can have to make sure that you are holding yourself to that standard of that definition that you created for yourself. I do see one in the chat where it says it's simply the way you communicate with the consumers. Absolutely, right? So again, in totality, um, fundamentally, I don't believe that there is a right or wrong definition to customer service. I think it's what you as the individual believe that those you interact with or that you engage with, how they will best receive the way you interact and engage with them.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm going to ask a question about that, but I'll wait for the
Sure,
presentation.
sure. So that kind of takes us into, thank you for those who shared. That takes us into the, our customer service philosophy, right? So there's this customer service philosophy that I believe in. I mean, it's very simple, and it's called guest over customers, right? So just to kind of give you a little more information or interpretation behind that, it's simply to treat them as if they are guests. So instead of calling them, customers, right? You want to call them your guest. And just to go a little bit further, we think about how do we treat those who are guests that come into our homes. So when it comes to your respective organization or your business establishment, that should be viewed as your home, right? That's your place of residence to a degree. And those customers who enter into that home, they're your guest. So if you shape your mind to this frame of, guest over customers, it allows you to, treat them or provide them an experience that they won't forget, or an experience so great that they'll continue to come back and conduct business with you, right? Whether it's a small organization that you have or a large organization, everyone that you come in contact with, who's a potential consumer, you treat them as if they're a guest that you're welcoming into your home. And there's also some additional context behind the word guest, Guest, which I'll explain a little bit later when we get to the portion about the book that I wrote. So this is the new and easy to remember customer service philosophy that you can kind of use to help you with your day-to-day interactions with those consumers, to help provide just a better experience. So another engagement activity here, simply just think about everything, any and everything that sends you into a bad mood, right? We're all human. Some days are better than others, and there are reasons for that. But simply share, three of those things into the chat, three things that may send you into a bad mood. Ron, would you like to share a couple?
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
I was looking at some of the comments that were coming in. Um, Things that send me into a bad mood. And let's see. So, well, let me first remind everybody, Jeff wants you all to think about three things that send you into a bad mood and put it into the chat. So I'll share mine. I'm thinking in terms of when I walk into some place,
Mm-hmm.
or when I approach a business for whatever reason, I'm about to buy something. Um, what kind of gets me into a bad mood? The
Right.
first thing is when they don't acknowledge me,
Mm.
especially when nobody's there.
Okay.
I cannot stand when people don't acknowledge me when I walk into their store, like when I walk into a restaurant and somebody's right in front of me and they're looking down or they're looking behind them. They see me walk in, I'm like right there, and they just don't say anything. I
Right.
think appropriate customer service, well, at least for me, is when they say, we'll at least say, we'll be right with you.
Right.
Or give me a second, sir, I'm just handling this real quickly. I'll be right with you. That
Right.
lets me know that, hey, I'm here, you're just handling something. But when you see me walk in and I'm just looking at you and I know you saw me and you're not saying anything, that sends me into a bad mood.
Okay. So let me ask this. So think about it from the other lens. If you are the one providing the service, right?
Okay.
Uh, so think about those things that may send you into a bad mood. I see a comment in the chat where it's nonsensical client request. Uh, no, pretty
I might
cool.
have to ask Edwin to expound on that, but
Um, and I think that's a good one. So just to kind of like go on to that and before you share, um, I think that well, Ronald, I won't ask you to share because I like that comment so much that I think it's like
oh,
the
skip on me, but okay.
no. I think it's like the perfect segue to go into like the first way that you can create a culture of service.
Okay.
And if there's a nonsensical client request, it's like, oh my gosh, this really sends me into a bad mood or it drives me up a wall. But one thing that you can do um, to help break out of that bad mood, and it also, one thing you can do to help break out of that bad mood is to simply share a smile, right? So Edwin, whenever you get a nonsensical client request, just think about, hey, let me start with sharing a smile, right? So you're sharing a smile to the fact that, hey, this client has sent a nonsensical request, which may sound a little weird, but the fact of sharing a smile means that it can become contagious if you're having an interaction with someone physically. Um, when they see your smile, it opens the door for them to establish trust with you. And then thirdly, when you share a smile, it creates a welcoming and friendly environment. But also, and Edwin, I'm just speaking to you to your comment there. When you share a smile, it also gets those, I guess what I like to call those feel good hormones flowing throughout your body, just so that it puts you in a better state of interacting and engaging with a guest or a client. So think about that. Just start with sharing a smile. Something you want to add to that, Ronald, or did you want to?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
So how do you do that in an email?
So right. So when the chat when it came through the chat, the first thing I thought of was an interaction with someone, like
I think
not
somebody
physical,
gave.
not a non-physical interaction. So from that standpoint, you're sharing a smile with yourself. It's like, look, let me smile as I read this email so that I can be in a good mood. And that's just going to set the tone for how that interaction will be after.
Jean Benisse, I'm sorry, I gotta mention this. He actually literally said, put some smiles in the chat. So I guess that's how I'm supposed to do it. So, but no, I just wanted to share that. But go ahead. No, I understand though.
Yeah. When I educate them in the best possible ways and they still want the nonsensical requests to be.
You
No,
gotta give them a smiley face, Edwin.
right. I think Edwin, I think there are going to be some things that I kind of touch on a little bit more to kind of help with that, right? So man, I love it. I appreciate that for your engagement. So let's see here. So engagement again. So I thank you guys so much for engaging thus far. So when we think about giving our guests our undivided attention, this activity is a segue into the second way to create a culture of service. Use the chat area to list 3 things that you can do to let those that you're working with know that they have your undivided attention, right? So we engage with customers all of the time. But when we're engaging with them, what are 3 things you can do that will let them know that you are indeed listening and they have your undivided attention?
You got me thinking. I think there's well, I know one thing that I typically do. And I'll say there's about 2 things that I can think of right now. Let me see if there's a third.
One at a time. Go ahead, man.
All right. So the first one, like I mentioned the first time, is I acknowledge people, right? When I first, interact with them. The second thing is that I actually repeat or regurgitate what they just told me to make sure I understood what they're saying. So I'll say, so let me get what you're saying. Let me make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. You need this, and this, right? And I make sure I get their, whatever they repeat what they're saying back to me, so I understand and that they know that I'm actually trying to understand and they have my attention.
Nice.
So that's 2, but there's some in the comments.
Yeah, I see. Give my full attention first. Eye contact. Dope. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Respond right away, even if to say you can't pick up right now, and we'll call back.
Oh yeah, that's really good.
Yep, that's a really good one. So these are all great, and part of these engagement activities too, man, are so that you guys can really, help get that information out, because I believe that by you sharing it out, that's another way of you believing it or it becoming ingrained into your DNA, so that you provide the best service, or that you let them know that they have your undivided attention. So that goes into way number 2, which I'd like to offer in addition to those, is to listen with your heart, right? So when you're listening with your heart, right, before I even go into those 3 things that you see there, when you're listening with your heart, you're doing so by providing eye contact, right? You're doing so, Ronald, by repeating what was said, right? Just to let them know that these are all forms of listening with your heart. And when you do so, it allows you to gather all the facts, right? Whenever you're engaging with that particular individual, it minimizes mistakes when you listen with your heart. And then you can also provide better solutions. when you listen with your heart. And in addition to that, listening with your heart is what I call active listening skills, right? And some people don't believe that active listening is a skill, but it indeed is a skill that one must acquire. But it pretty much shows the guests that you're engaging with that there is value in what they're saying. So Ronald, just to go back to what you're saying, by repeating to them what was said, that's a way that you are signaling to them that there's value in what they just told you, and that you're not that you're not paying attention to them. And when you do so, it helps with creating a better experience for them. So we'll continue right along and move into this fun little exercise that I like. Simply, there's a picture of a dress here, and tell me what you see. What color is this dress? Just type it into the chat. Is it blue and black, or is it white and gold? Ronald, start us off. Tell us what you see.
I can actually see both, but the first time I saw this, I could actually I saw a different color, but I'm gonna say it's white and gold, man.
White and gold. Okay. The dress is RGB. Is that help me understand RGB?
Edwin, explain RGB.
Oh, designer.
Yeah. Sorry, it went over our heads, man. We're not designers.
I think I know what it is, but I don't know how to explain what it is. So I see someone says white and gold. Ronald, you said both.
I said I can see I saw it at first, but it's white and gold now.
Okay. Well, I actually see blue and black. I see blue and black. There have been days where I've seen white and gold, but I'm seeing blue and black right now. But the point is that
wow, I'm trying to see the blue and black now.
Yeah.
I saw it when it first switched, but now my eyes are cleared up and it's like white and gold.
Right. So we see some people seeing white and gold, and then we see others see oh wow, I see brown and blue. Right. That's different.
Actually,
right?
yeah, you know what? I did see brown and blue.
Okay.
That's what I saw first.
Man. So as everyone can see, the group is, in some way, form, or fashion, the group is, split in terms of like what they see, but it drives home a very, very important point, which is that, everyone has different perspectives about different situations, different viewpoints, and that's okay, right? But I think what makes this point even more better is, and it drives us to the third way of creating a culture of service, because everyone sees things differently from different viewpoints. We have to make sure that we display authentic empathy, right? So we're all familiar with the term empathy, and what it means, but I think if you're able to display empathy from an authentic standpoint, I think that's what makes you set yourself apart from others, and it helps create a great experience. So when you display authentic empathy, you want to remove biases and opinions. You want to make sure that you communicate to them that you understand whatever the situation may be going on at that time, and then genuinely offer them assistance. And that's how you display your authentic empathy. So just real quick, just want to do a brief recap. First we want to make sure that we share a smile. Second, we want to make sure that we listen with our heart. And then here, third, we want to make sure that we display authentic empathy. So another engagement activity. using the chat, list one thing you should not, and I put emphasis on not, one thing you should not do when you offer an apology to your guests or those that you serve. One thing you should not do. Just drop it into the chat.
Oh man. All right, I'm gonna carry on tradition and
Oh
start.
yeah, no doubt.
So this reminds me, my wife was showing me this video yesterday that went viral. And it's a video, I don't know if you saw, very disheartening videos, but we're not gonna go too deep about the disheartening part. But
Okay.
the video of these guys, there's a young lady who is talking to a group of guys. She obviously likes the guy that she's talking, they're talking to, and you can see the other guys are kind of egging the other guy on, and they said, they're trying to encourage both of them to give each other a kiss, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what happens after this or what led to this, but eventually the video shifts to where all the guys are picking this girl up and they throw her into the dumpster.
Wow.
Yeah, we're not gonna go too deep into that, but it was a sad situation. The girls, you could see she was trying to play it off. She's a little embarrassed by it, but she was trying to play it off as they were laughing. But then she got to the point where she actually started crying. Like she didn't even get out of the dumpster. She's just laying there crying because you could see she was torn into pieces. Her self-esteem probably just went out.
Right.
She probably just left her and she starts crying. So the next day, after these guys post the video, one of the guys comes on, he gives an apology, and he says something to the degree of, I'm paraphrasing, of course, because I don't remember the exact wording, but he says something like, public service announcement, everybody. Me and the guys just thought it was funny. And because he was getting a lot of backlash from a lot of Black women, because it was a Black girl, he was like, my bad if this offended you all, but me and the guys just thought it was funny. This is what we do. And so, if it offended you, then I'm sorry. But, we thought it was funny. And everybody's like, no thanks to your apology, sir. It's not accepted. I mean, it's pretty much like saying, oh yeah, you got offended, but hey, we thought it was funny.
We thought it was funny, right? Nah, man, yeah, definitely don't do that, right? I see a couple of comments in the chat. Don't do it excessively. Oh, must say amen to that one. Because man, that's exactly where I was going with my point, right? Whenever it comes to what you should not do when you apologize. I'll touch on that in a minute. Don't justify and try to defend the mistake. Play the hot potato game, aka share the blame with the client. Absolutely, man. These are quite funny, but they're so true. You definitely don't want to do any of these things.
Can you break that down for me? I'm interested in hearing those three. Why we shouldn't do those three, if you don't mind.
In terms of, okay, so I'll get to don't do it excessively.
Okay.
Right. Don't justify and try to defend the mistake, right? Okay, so that also kind of goes into what I'm going to say, but I'll just go right into it. So when you try to justify or defend a mistake, right, there's no action being done on how you're going to correct the mistake, right? So I'm just going to go into it a little bit more. You want to make sure that you master the art of an apology, right? That's the fourth way. Master the art of an apology. And by doing so, you want to keep it simple, straightforward, and sincere. So when you do it excessively or when you over apologize, right? It's like, okay, you're continuing to tell me you're sorry or you apologize, but where is the follow-up action after that? So that's why it's like, don't do it excessively. Say you're sorry or what have you. Keep it simple, straightforward, and sincere, but then continue to move forward with action behind that apology to correct the mistake. So, don't justify it. Don't try to defend it, own up to it, right? But then assure them how you're going to correct that mistake, and play the hot potato game, AKA share the blame with the client, right? So if I'm interpreting that correct, Edwin, if I'm going to take fault for it, take fault and not try to explain to the customer where their fault lies into the situation. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
gonna,
interested in
yeah,
hearing.
I'm gonna, exactly right. So, accept ownership of it, and then again, it sounds redundant, but continue to move forward and add action behind that, of like how this won't happen again, right? We're all human. Mistakes are gonna happen, but we just want to make sure that when we are faced with a time where we have to issue an apology, that we master how to do so, and make sure we don't over apologize and actually follow through with action of how it won't be an issue in the future.
So that I, I don't want to interrupt you on that. I want to go back to that number 2, if you don't mind.
Listen with your heart or straightforward?
No, I'm sorry. Edwin's response.
Oh, no, go ahead, man. We're good. Go ahead.
So I'm interested in that one because now I've been guilty of actually taking some of the blame, and however, I that sometimes, I take some of the blame, and there'll be at times where I'd say, okay, well, this is where the breakdown was. For example, let's say hypothetically, you bought something from me, right? You
Mm-hmm.
put the order in wrong online. You said you wanted, I don't know, you wanted chocolate chip ice cream.
Yeah.
And then I send you the chocolate chip ice cream, and you said no, but I actually wanted vanilla. But you know what I meant, because I always order vanilla and this and that. And you're going off completely telling me that I'm supposed to give you vanilla when it clearly says chocolate chip.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in the scenario where this person is so right, they really believe that it should have been vanilla despite what they did.
Right.
I've been guilty of this. I'll admit this for everybody. I've been guilty of saying, well, I take some blame because I should have maybe followed up with you, right? And double check, being that you typically order chocolate chip, vanilla. However, next time, just make sure you. So that's wrong.
Not that it's wrong, right? I don't want to say that it's wrong, but I mean, you think about it. So let's go back to displaying authentic empathy, right? And if you jump into their shoes, do you want to be told wrong in that moment, right? So it's like, you know what? I apologize. I should have followed up with you because I know you normally order take complete responsibility, right? Because I know you ordered this particular thing, and move forward, right? Sometimes I try to liken it to, it's one of those things where you pick and choose your battles in a sense, right? Like, is it worth it to at that point try to say to the customer that they are wrong for whatever reason, right? Because given that particular situation, like you said, if you know that they typically order vanilla and you see chocolate chip, just say, hey, I should have followed up, like you did, right? I appreciate that pushback, man. I like that, man. But I think
What's
it's
a real situation? So, well, not
yeah.
a real situation. I don't order ice cream, but there's been situations where I was like, but hell,
Right.
how the heck was I supposed to know?
Right. Look, man, we're because there's a lot of, I think, to a degree, that in the world of customer service, this is just my philosophy, that there is a lot of ego suppressing at times, right? Again, just kind of like pick and choose. Will there come a time where you may have to educate a customer on something? Yes, right. But that's not to say that you have to say, "Oh, you were absolutely wrong in that particular case."
Right.
So yeah.
Edwin put a comment down here. He says, "Don't tell the client it's because you sent the wrong file that it was published badly. you should have done due diligence and made sure it was the right file, take complete responsibility. So
I don't disagree. Yeah.
okay.
Yep. Man, appreciate the dialogue. So here's an assignment that I would like to offer to everyone on the call, you entrepreneurs. This is going to lead into our fifth and final way that you can create a culture of service. But this is an assignment that you can do and take with you to make sure that you show your guests that you're grateful for them, right? So develop a strategy that you could use or that could be implemented to show that you're grateful for them. And simply use these two questions, right? What will you do to express your gratitude? And set a hard, concrete date of when you'll execute that gratitude strategy. So it's, and when you do this, let's see. The problem here is that, cool, that was back on now. So when you complete this assignment, what this does is it kind of sets up a way for you as the business establishment or organization to create repeat guests or customers, right? So that goes into the fifth way of expressing gratitude. And when you express gratitude, you want to make sure that you're creative. You want to make it intentional and also make it about those that you are expressing your gratitude towards. So when we think about from the business world, it looks different for some businesses, right? I like to use this example. Years ago, there's a particular soup store. I won't call the name because I don't want to seem like I'm promoting, but there's a particular soup store that I would often purchase my soups from. And one way that they would express gratitude was, every month or every 3 months, they would send me $100 in the mail to come back and shop with them. Right now, granted, there was some type of commitment to using this 100.
Yeah.
You may have to spend a certain amount in order to get the 100 off. But that was a way that they may have expressed gratitude for the business that you've given them. And I would oftentimes do so, right? It's like, hey, let me go back and let me get another one because I know I got $100 off of it, right? Particularly if I was being strategic and I eyeballed a suit that was already on sale, so I can get it for an even lower price. But within your organization or your business, it may look different, but you really want to make sure that when you come up with this gratitude strategy, make it intentional, be creative, and make it about those that you serve.
Yeah, that's I'm glad you mentioned that because I was thinking about that when I saw that and I was like, man, that's going to look different for a lot of businesses, right?
Right.
That suit store, being able to send something out and saying thank you to somebody might look different for somebody that's maybe in a service industry, for example. So it is forcing me to think like, okay, what ways would somebody, let's say, like we have, I know one of the guys, BEL Fellows, he has a what do you call this thing? A call center.
A who?
A call center.
Call center. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So maybe it's not that different, but I'm thinking, okay, he's going to have clients, of course, that are companies, is business to business. So, in what ways would he actually thank this business for their, for becoming a client of his to a degree? I don't know. Maybe that's a free 100 calls.
So I think, like you said, it looks different for different businesses or organizations, right? For some, it might be some type of financial discount, right? on, whatever the product or the service that they're providing. For others, I'll just share something that I thought about that I think, you know, it, it, uh, it may not matter regardless of the industry, but let's say you have a website presence, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what if on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis, you highlight a particular client that frequently shops with you, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
something that's different. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the form of a monetary discount.
Right.
You know, Ronald, if I have a product or if I have a product and you often purchase it, and I may say, Ronald shops with me a whole lot, regardless whether it's a discount or not. What can I do extra to add more value to the relationship with Ronald and my company, right? And like I said, for that same example, if we have a strong online presence, I could say I could find some way to spotlight Ronald, right? And I kind of got this idea, if you will, from my days in higher education, where, when I was working with graduate students, I wanted to do a graduate spotlight every month. There
Yeah.
was nothing financial benefit. There was not a financial benefit for the student, but it was the fame piece,
Yeah.
right? Or being able to be recognized to a larger audience about what you've done or how you contribute to something.
Right. Okay. I see Edwin has his hand raised. I don't know if
Yep.
you will we you want me to go ahead and
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
all right, let's see.
All right, guys, thank you. I just wanted to give an example because Ronald seemed to be under the impression that it's more difficult for a service. It's actually easier for a service than a product because the product, it's something physical, it's something tangible. If you have 10, if you're selling PS5s, for example, if you have 10 PS5s, if you give one away, then you have 9 left. But for a service, there's always a way that you can squeeze a little bit more for a little bit more value for your client. I'm just gonna give an example for myself. Me, my best clients, I give them a cap that if you eat it, everything that you require else for the rest of the month is gonna be free. That means if there's a certain amount of money that you spend with me, once you hit it, everything else that you request from me is free. And because they value what I offer, they understand what it would be like to be having all of that value for free, then they make sure they get that cap. So in other words, I control my monthly revenue by knowing how to position myself and selling the value of what I'm offering. So that's just one example. But I have different gratitude packages, if I could say, for different type of clients that I have.
Nice, man. Thanks for sharing that.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks, Edwin.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
All right.
Edwin drove the point home.
Yeah, so for all the service people out there.
Right, right. So just a quick recap of these 5 ways. We want to make sure that you start with a smile, share a simple smile, because as I mentioned before, it gets those feel-good hormones going throughout your body so that you put yourself in a better mood to deliver that exceptional service that you wish to do so for your guest. You want to listen with your heart. Listen more than these are your active listening skills, right? Listening with your heart. Displaying the authentic empathy, placing yourself into the shoes of others so that you can truly feel exactly what they're feeling and begin to assist them with the situation that may be at hand. Master the art of the apology, keeping it simple, keeping it straightforward and sincere, not over apologizing, and making sure that when you do apologize, follow up with some action. And then lastly, as we just touched on, expressing gratitude. Oh, well, I got a bonus for you.
Oh man, not a bonus.
So, in addition to those 5 ways, we want to make sure that we are mindful of our tone, right? I read somewhere that said 10% of conflict is due to a difference in opinion, and the other 90% is due to the tone of someone's voice. So when we think about the tone of your voice, when we think about the tone of your voice, it's made up of the three things that you see on the screen. It's made up of, you know, your pitch, it's made up of your tempo, and it's made up of the volume. And because your tone is totally up to you, you determine what your tone is. I think it's very important that you make sure you're mindful of it, because it also is a piece that helps build trust with the clients that you serve. Ronald, you look like you got something for me.
I'm a smiling guy. This is one of my weaknesses. It's hard for me to hide stuff. So I was just
Yeah,
thinking, things come in my head as you're talking. So
yeah, no, that's cool.
there's this lady that I deal with. She's a client of mine, and
Evan
so
says he struggles with that.
that he does. Very blunt guy. uh, but no, this lady, she's an older lady. But you probably get this a lot with older people anyway.
Hmm.
So when I first met her, we were talking on the phone, and she was just so, her tone of voice is just so mean. She's like, "Hello, yeah, okay, bye." And I was like, "Man, this lady must not like me." But
Right,
every
right.
time I talked to her and I would laugh and joke and stuff like that, it was the same kind of tone. And then she would laugh at some of my jokes, but it's just the way she talks. And even
Mm,
every time she says bye, it's bye. So it sounds mean, and I would put it on speaker so my wife could hear. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, what does she sound like? She sounds so
right.
mean." I say, "No, that's just the way she sounds." But I only imagine if somebody had met her for the first time and that's the only impression that they got of her. Luckily, I got to speak with her over time, so I understood that's just the way she talks.
Right.
But if I only had met her one time, I would have thought, man, this lady's just miserable.
Hmm.
And she's
And so, man, I'm glad you mentioned that too, in terms of like, you know, if someone was meeting her for the first time, because within like customer service, a lot, you know, sometimes or most of the times, I would say, you know, you may be coming in contact with the client for the first time,
mm,
which means it's important that, you know, your first impression, 9 times out of 10 will be a lasting impression, whether it's good or bad. So your tone will play into that, right? So, you know, a lot of and just to add like a full recap into customer service as a whole, just from my philosophy and my viewpoint, I think a lot of it is like really being in tune with who you are as a person and being able to check yourself,
mm,
to make sure that, you know, you are not coming off in a manner in which would be offensive to others, so to speak. You know, it's there's this one thing I saw too. It was like, you know, treat your customers or your clients um, as if how you would want someone else to treat your family members. Right.
mm,
So, you know, so the golden rule, of course, is do unto others as you would like them to do unto yourself. Right.
mhm,
But I saw a different variation of it that said, man, treat folks as though you would want them to treat your family members. Uh,
mhm.
just to kind of, you know, take it a bit further. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, man, that's the bonus. Now I have a giveaway for the audience.
Oh,
So we talked about, you know, this book that I self-published, Be My Guest, a guide for creating an ultimate service experience. Just to give a little bit more about the book itself. So it covers um, customer service. So the word guest that you see on the book, each letter represents a particular piece of customer service, right? So the G stands for greeting. The U represents undivided attention. The E represents empathy. The S stands for solution. And the T represents thanks. So if you think about the presentation that we covered today, the ways that you create a culture of service, all of them have some type of component connected to the G, U, E, S, and T. So throughout the book, I use the word guest a number of times. So if you think back to the customer service philosophy where, I talked about guest over customers, within the book, instead of using the word customer, I use the word guest. Give the book to the person who got the color.
All right, I just saw that coming.
For those of you who are here, I would like for you guys to guess how many times I use the word guest in the book. And the person who comes the closest without going over, we get a free copy.
All right, so how many? Let's see who we got. You only can guess one time, right?
One guess.
All right, so how many, the question, so you have to guess how many times you use the word guess in the book.
Throughout the book, yeah.
Man, all right. It's over 9,000. Maybe you should have said how many pages are in the book.
Okay, yeah. Let me add some context to that. The book is less than 100 pages.
Yeah, Edward. So that might be. It'll probably have to be literally on every page. Does Edwin get a do-over?
Yeah, Edwin gets a do-over. I should have added some context to that. All right, let's say 100.
All right. Jean-Benny said 100. Delise, where are you?
I feel like it's auction time now.
Kenya, Vanessa, Estivene. Who else here? Johnson. Nah, I'm cool. Just wanted to show how much of a nerd I am.
I appreciate the engagement, Edwin.
I do have some questions for you while everybody's trying to figure out
Absolutely.
how many times that's in the that word is in the book. So you said you don't believe that there is a right or wrong way for customer service, right? So if there is no right or wrong way, and each company has their own style of service, which I've seen, is there technically good and bad service?
I see where you're going with that one. Absolutely. Right.
Okay.
So let me make sure I'm clear on your question. You said there's no good or bad way or
right. So because everybody has their own way they do customer service. So for example, a restaurant I went to a restaurant where they threw peanuts on the floor. It was okay. You've been to them before where you have the peanuts in a bucket and you can just, crack it with your mouth and spit the shells out on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
It's not bad. It's just pretty normal. Whereas you go to Olive Garden or something like that, they might be like, sir, this is, and you might get some pushback. But that's just part of their culture.
Right.
So because everybody has their own culture, does that mean if I decide to just let's see, if I get your order wrong, it's just wrong and that's just gonna be it?
No.
Does that mean is there such thing as a good and bad service deal technically? That's the rule of my company.
Right. I love it, man. In that lane, Ronald, man, I would say, man, that is absolutely wrong, right?
Okay.
At the end of the day, you want to make sure that the customer appreciates the experience from when they come into your establishment. Now, I'll go as far as to say that may be the culture that you create. And if you want to create that culture, I'd be glad to see if you're in business in the next month or two.
That's the caveat, huh?
So,
you can do it, but at your own risk.
Right. Do it at your own risk. But so I guess what I was saying was, your own personal definition as an individual of customer service, not necessarily your company's culture. So when I ask, the group to share their personal definition, it's like, what is my personal definition so that I can hold myself accountable?
Gotcha.
In terms of customer service. But no, man, I love it, dog. I really.
So it is it is Q&A time, right?
Yep.
So if you have a question, raise your hand. I know Edwin has a question, but if you have a question, raise your hand. I'll unmute you and I'll let you ask the question, or you could simply put it in the chat and I'll read it out loud to Jeff. All right. So
we're gonna give the book to I can't pronounce.
Did everybody give it? Okay. Well, if it's time right now, let's do it.
Yep.
Is it Beethoven, Jean Benisse?
Yep. That's our winner.
All right. Jean Benisse, man, congratulations, man. You won the book.
Came close without going over.
How many times is it actually?
Oh, I refuse to say.
What?
Oh, man, look, man, this thing is live.
Oh, okay, not bad. It is live, streaming live on Facebook. So.
Right.
Okay. So Jean Benisse will go ahead and handle that. I know you and Jeremy. So I'll work it out with Jeff to see how we can actually get that shipped over to you. So congratulations, my friend.
Yep. So guys, this is my contact information. Would love to stay connected with you all. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to me via email, or via phone. And there's my social media information. So yeah, Ronald, at this time, man, we can
take
open
questions.
Q&A.
All right. Jean Benisse said, "Thank you so much." Thank you, my friend.
So welcome.
So we'll take questions now. While we're waiting on people to raise their hands and type in the chat what their questions are, I got another one for you.
Go ahead, Ron.
All right. So as we're talking about customer service, we know customer service is very important. And I know technically the employees have to be involved in that. So for all of my entrepreneurs out here who have partners, maybe they're startups, their business is not too big. They probably have maybe 2, 3, 10 people working with them. Should the group, the small group, these group of entrepreneurs be practicing customer service? Is it cheesy to say, hey, everybody, it's only like 2 or 3 of us, but let's practice how we actually take phone calls or respond to messages? Because I know I've struggled with that when I started projects, organizations, and the way somebody would respond to the email, I'd be like, ugh, come on.
Right.
So
right.
Should we be practicing customer service? Is that even really a thing?
Yeah. So, man, the short answer, yes. Right. The long answer, yes. Because if I'm not mistaken, the idea would be maybe to potentially grow the organization.
Right.
So if you're starting those practices early on, when the organization is at its infant stage or beginning stage, you start to set that culture early, right?
Right.
I liken it to, I'll use this one fast food chain restaurant, right, that we may be so familiar with right here in the U.S. But it had to start somewhere. And that culture that they've created.
Can we name them?
If you want to name them, we can.
Man, Chick-fil-A has the best service I have ever seen consistently at least for a business that has chains of restaurants.
Say this, man. On a personal note, I do not recall ever having a bad experience at Chick-fil-A. And I have been shopping with them for years, right? I remember when, and I have to give them credit too, for being ahead of the curve in this aspect. I remember when I first I remember when Chick-fil-A first started having representatives stand outside and take orders.
Mm-hmm.
Um, oh man, I hated it. I'm like, these folks are standing outside in this hot sun or it's raining and they're taking these orders.
Mm-hmm.
But then as I start to see, time move along, I'm like, wow, man, it's kind of genius because it's like it helps. Well, for one, it cuts down on the confusion between the speaker uh, and the folks on the inside,
Mm-hmm.
trying to take your order. Sometimes the speaker can be distorted or what have you. So it's like now I have a live person right here at my vehicle window asking me what my order is. So it's like they've kind of taken the dining room order service to the drive-through.
Yeah, like waitresses and waiters in the drive-through outside.
Exactly. So
Never thought of it that way.
I was like, man, that's pretty genius. And even to go this far with the mobile app.
Oh, Edwin has a. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just even with the mobile app, right? So it's we live in a world of convenience here, particularly in the U.S. So I just think that was brilliant. So to your point, yes. To your question, yes.
Okay. I want to add on to that, but let me, Edwin has his hand up. I don't know if I had missed it. So let me let him ask his question.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Ron. No, you didn't miss it. I just put it on. I really wanted to thank Jeffrey for doing this because Jeffrey, do you speak a little bit of Creole? No?
If sock counts.
All right, man. All right.
He has a French last name, but he's not Haitian. He might be.
He might have to do that DNA test. But I really wanted to thank him because I always say customer service is in the top 3 problems of Haiti. I'm not even talking about politics. I'm not even talking about electricity, internet. Customer service is one of those things that really, really, because we don't master it, we don't cultivate it, really makes the quality of life really, really, really bad. So because you're doing this, and I really hope the live is a lot of people will be on the live, and we're gonna transcript that so that everyone can benefit from all those gems that you've dropped. Now, I have questions about me personally. I'm going to start by the tone one. I don't know. I always had a big voice, even as a kid. Okay. And the type of music that I listened to, it was always hip hop. And hip hop is very competitive. And actually, that's what, attracted me to it is I'm a very competitive person. Like at heart, like, it's sound competition. It's not bad. There's no animosity, but like playful competition. So wherever there's something happening, and if it's a contest or whatever, I have to be in and I have to win. That's just the person I am. Also, I studied medicine. That's 7 years of theoretical knowledge, and in my country and everywhere in the world, this is a very respected trade. And from what other people tell me, we are so used to prescribing that we don't often come across as people who are empathetic. And so when you combine all of this, and I'm a very high achiever, like I said, I'm competitive, and I'm used to prescribing. I tend to, when I'm talking to the client, who the whole mentality is the client is king. The client is coming to me, so I'm supposed to serve him. But my tone comes across as I'm telling you what to do. I do consulting, technically speaking. I mean, I do strategic consulting, so technically speaking, I am telling you what to do, but you're the one paying me. So how do I deal with that? Because I'm not gonna say that I had problems with that, like specifically related to that. So far, it's been going well. Yeah. But I do have that little thing in the back of my mind that tells me, Edwin, maybe that's not how you should have said this, or something like that. So how do
That's
I,
good.
what's the strategy?
That's a start. That there's some level of conscious recognition that you have, right? So let me ask this question. I know we're speaking virtually, but I'm just going to presume that you are speaking in the tone now that you would normally speak with a client. Yes or no?
Totally. I only have one tone.
Okay. So, man, I will say when you first jumped onto the call, I think a lot of it depends on the individual receiving the information too, and what kind of information you may be delivering. But when you jumped onto the call today, I think about what my first impression was, and I was like, man, he has a very clear voice, and he says what he says, and it's, that's just how he says it, right? So my point with that is, I think sometimes, and we're kind of going into some another area, but sometimes customer service is a two-way street too, right? It's not necessarily just from those delivering the service, but it's from those receiving the service too. But that's another conversation. But I think that the fact that you have some conscious recognition that, oh man, I could have said that in another way, I think that's a start, and I think that's important. But you also, individual folks have to realize too that we are human beings, and who we are who we are. But we have to do our best to adjust to it. I hope that gives you some more time.
So let me ask. Oh, go ahead, Edwin.
A lot of value, Jeffrey. A lot of value. And if there's no other question, I would like to just be done with my second question, and just so I could leave it to the others. What do you think, Ron? Is there anyone on the pipeline?
There is another question from Jean Benicia.
All right, then I'll let him go first.
All right, so he says, how to simplify a relationship with customers and at the same time being efficient, accurate, while not good at speaking. Is there a strategy for that? Imagine a scenario with a small business just launched. A person who could do this job better can't be paid. So I'm going to repeat it again, maybe just ask it in a question form so I can make sure I understood it. He said, how do you simplify the relationship with customers at the same time being efficient, accurate, while not good at speaking? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I may have to read it again.
Okay, well, I think he's asking pretty much how to be effective and accurate if you're not good at communicating, right? And Jean-Benet said, you could tell me if I'm getting that wrong. Yeah. Is there a strategy for that? If you're not really good at communicating, how can you still provide that good customer service?
Yeah, I mean that's making it make a lot more. I can begin to understand that. So I think for one, it would be like, what do you define not good at speaking, right? And it's kind of rhetorical, but there was this this saying someone said, where it said, I'm trying to remember, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but it's like knowing who your audience is, right? So not good at speaking, does not good at speaking mean that I have to articulate in a particular way? Or does that mean I have to project my voice a certain way? Or does that mean I don't speak well because I might say or right? Okay, language barrier maybe. But for me, it's if I'm engaging with a client, it's just doing my best to meet them where they are with what I have to offer. And I hope that's adding some clarity.
Right. So Edwin said language barrier. Jean-Benet said, you let me know if that's correct. But if it's the language barrier aspect of it, what do you say to somebody who might have a language barrier? So I guess in the context, for example, if somebody from Haiti doesn't speak very good English,
Mm-hmm.
could they still offer good customer service to a U.S. client or customer with at least some working level of English?
Yeah.
Which I think is possible, actually. But
yeah, I don't think it's hard. And that just kind of goes back to what I was mentioning a little bit earlier in terms of, if if I'm the customer and I'm receiving the service, right, there has to be some level of empathy on my end, right, depending on what the product or the service is. Like if I know that I am, conducting business with a uh, perfect example that just came to me, right? Um, nail shops here in the United States. We know that they are, most of them are owned and operated by a select group of individuals who sometimes have a language barrier, right? But does that mean they can't give us good customer service? Absolutely not. So I just think that being okay with who you are, and if you're working to improve that language barrier, continue to work on it. But while you work on it, being okay with that, but still, find that way to communicate with those that you're serving to let them know that, hey, even though we're having this language piece that's a barrier, I can still be empathetic. I can still listen to you, right? I can still apologize if needed. I can still express gratitude. So I
yeah,
encourage you, don't let that be a hindrance.
yeah, I'll agree with you on that. I'll say that, and Jean-Benis said we have a lot of people here, and some people are also not articulate. A bunch of words come out their mind and blocks their output.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get to that. So we have a lot of immigrants here in the United States. The United States is made up of immigrants, pretty much. There are a lot of people from other countries that have language barriers here. And like Jeff said, that does not stop them from giving great service. I've been to many places where, oh gosh, sometimes I don't even understand what they're saying. For example, I've been to many places that are run by Asian people, and I have a really hard time making out what they're saying. But obviously, I know what I'm there for. So, for example, let's use the nail shop. I don't really get my nails done, but women go get their nails done. They know what they're coming there for. So obviously, there is this level of basic communication that they need to know. You come to get your nails done. What do you want? You want this, this, this. I assume they have some kind of menu. The ladies choose it, and they get it done. They show them a little respect. They pay attention, and maybe there's not a big rapport building in terms of communication wise, but the service can still be carried out without being rude. And then also, for me, I know personally, when somebody's trying to understand, and there is the language barrier, and they're taking the time to actually understand what I'm saying, and I'm taking the time to understand what they're saying, that actually helps create good service. And eventually, we come back and we just get to know each other. He knows what I want, and
Mm-hmm.
I know what they want, and we just build that relationship. And so the customer service can still be built. I think customer service still exists outside of language. And
Absolutely.
to add on to that again, think about when you travel to another country. When you're getting good service and bad service, regardless if you speak the language or not. When I went to um, I don't know, Abu Dhabi. I've been to a country where I didn't speak the language. I could tell if the person was being genuine or providing good service, like if they were trying to understand, or they brought somebody over to kind of translate and they provided me what I needed. I didn't leave with a bad, you know, uh, impression.
Yeah.
Left with a bad impression if I felt like they were giving me bad vibes, looking at me funny, brushing me off. I think customer service can also be nonverbal as well. So,
Oh, it is. Absolutely.
yes, exactly. Jean-Benis said.
The
Yeah.
audio, visual, etc. Right. And it's funny, man. I talk a little bit about that in the book when you mentioned it
Really?
can be
Okay.
audio, visual, etc. Right. So customers, starting out with the greeting, and I won't, don't want to be a spoiler, but um, when it comes to the greeting, right? Most people think of the greeting as hello, good morning, how are you doing, right? But it goes beyond that, right? To the point that you said, Ronald, of it being nonverbal as well, right? So customer service can start as soon as they pull into the parking lot, or as soon as they walk into the establishment before someone can, say hello or welcome to the establishment, right? I'll dive a little bit more. Customer service can start with the cleanliness of your space, the
Wow.
scent of your space, right? Or even, I'll take, for example, you walk into an establishment that has, I don't know, let's just say a doctor's office, right? And you walk in and, most doctor's offices, they may have a television or something that's playing, something, right? What they're showing on that television could be a part of service, right? Not to get so political, but, I might be looking sideways if I walk into an establishment and Fox News is playing, right? But my point is, it goes beyond verbal. It's
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, Jean-Benisse. Even if you can't, if there's a language barrier, you can still provide some level of customer service. Edwin, unmuting you again for your second question.
All right, thank you. So Jeffrey, we spoke about how to provide good service to our clients.
Yeah.
I know these things. I do these things. But what do we do when it's just a bad client? And and when I say that, I'm not saying about a client, because I know it's our duty as service providers to kind of mold and train our clients to become good clients. And a lot of clients don't even understand the service that they're buying from you. So sometimes it's gonna take a little training. So you explain the value of what you're offering first, and also your process. Sometimes they know what they want to buy. They know, okay, I need a logo, right? But your process, because you have a lot more experience and you're not just a designer, you have experience in marketing and branding, etc. So you're like, okay, I would be totally happy to design your logo, but I advise you to do some brand strategy first. That way your logo will be more expressive of the essence of your company, and etc. and etc. And I've had the best experiences with clients who understand, clients who have become such my customers. Like we're it's more like a partnership at this point. But there are also people who, regardless of how many times you explain something to them, whether it's something simple as a flyer that they hired me to do, and you try to explain that this is violating all the principles of design. And because I have a reputation, because my portfolio is online for everybody to see, there are certain things. It's like I'm a doctor. There are certain drugs I cannot prescribe you, because I know it's going to be harmful to you. It's going to be harmful to your brand. So to me, it's the same principle. But when a client cannot learn, that's when I label them as bad clients. And my approach right now is I fire my bad clients. But what would you advise? Is that bad for to start, to begin with? Is that labeling people bad clients, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Second, firing them, saying, okay, I don't want to work with you. I think this is hurting my bottom line, and etc. Is that a good practice? And if not, what would you recommend?
Firing the client.
All right. So, man, I love that, right? I'm trying to figure out how to, I'm looking for a comparison, but to answer your question in short, I don't think it's a bad thing, right? So when you go into business, you have your ideal client, or your you have your target audience, right? And if those individuals are not a part of your target audience, then I mean, they may be bad clients, so to speak, right? But I think from a business standpoint, if you are comfortable with knowing that what you're putting out to them, or to those clients, or to those good clients, if you are comfortable knowing that, if you appreciate that relationship, I mean, that's fine. I think that it's what I guess what I'm trying to say is, um, your audience. And if those clients are not a part of your audience because of those experiences, then they're not a part of your audience. And so let me ask a clarifying question. When you say you fire a client, what does firing a client look like? You may have to unmute.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, nothing bad actually. It's just a term. I just use the term. But
Okay.
I would nicely explain that okay, I understand your situation. I understand your point of view. But this is not working for me. This is not working for my process. This is not working for my. I would try to justify it in one or two ways. It's either the project is taking too much time and I don't have enough hours that I can put in the project because I have other clients that I need to serve, or it's totally, it cannot go out as my work. I cannot sign on this. You understand? So because I understand the real principles of real design, I cannot, it cannot go out with my signature on it. I cannot claim that this is my work. And I would rather refund you if the advance was already given, or
Yeah.
if you didn't give me any money, I would rather not be paid. And that's my principle. And I would just explain that clearly but nicely, and that's it.
I
Thank you
don't,
for
I don't think that,
for the opportunity.
yeah, I really don't think that there's anything wrong with that. Um, I mean, just quite simple, right? Because it seems as if you like you mentioned, you just explain to them nicely that this is your process and it's not working out. I think it all. So then when you talk about that, it goes back to that tone. So yeah, no, man, seriously, I do not think that there's anything wrong with that, because you have your audience, and maybe their behavior is a good indication to you. All right, this is not the type of client that I want to work with. And I think that's okay.
That's yeah, that's really good to know. I think that's a really good question as well. Um, what do you have to say about uh, in these scenarios? I guess looking at, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs who are startups or just starting their business, and so we talk about culture. And I know you touched on that just a little bit. I want to dive a little deeper into it. Uh, how that entrepreneur begins providing service when, let's say, they're by themselves, or let's say it's two of them or three of them.
Mm-hmm.
The founder or those two or three founders, um, how important is it for them to establish that culture early on versus when they get bigger? Should they wait till they get bigger to establish some culture, like when there's 10, 20 people, or should it immediately start when it's one to two or three of them, or when the co-founders are involved?
No, man, I really think from day one, it's important to have that as a part of the culture, regardless of size, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even to simplify customer service for the smaller group, right? At that stage, it's relationship building, right? So using all of these things to build effective relationships. Um, but no, man, I think it should start small, because then when the company begins to grow, then you have, that culture has already been ingrained. That foundation has already been set. And then those individuals who are the founding members or the CEO, they can begin to push that culture out to those new individuals who are joining on to the team. So no, man, I think it's very important to
Yeah.
start.
So culture is started right at the beginning. So as soon as you have your first client, first customer, or first sale, you need to build that culture and that customer service.
Start doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, does that culture, can that culture change over time? Absolutely. But I think there should be a serious effort in setting that culture immediately, just for letting individuals know exactly what they can expect when they're engaging with you, right?
Right.
A part of the culture setting is to let the customer or the client or the guest know what to expect when they engage with you.
Okay, good.
Same like how we use the example, you know, with Chick-fil-A, right? We know, I know when I'm going to, like, it's not even a thought in my mind that I'm going to receive bad service,
Yeah.
because service has just been so consistent from day one. Right now, there
Yeah.
may be some establishments where it's just like, okay, I know they have what I want, but I really don't know what kind of service I'm.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I try to drive home to a lot of the fellows, which is why I got to bring you back, man, for the BEL Initiative program.
Yeah.
One of the things that I know we struggle with businesses in Haiti, and we're going to talk. Actually, I got another question. It's almost time for us, but
Okay.
this is going to be the beginning to a second question. I try to drive home the point that I don't even like Chick-fil-A like that. Actually, I'm vegetarian, so I don't even eat chicken sandwiches anymore. But if there is one fast food restaurant that I know that I would stay in the long line for, that's Chick-fil-A. And that's because their service, I know, regardless of how long that line is, it's going to move with speed.
Yes.
And they're going to do it with a great attitude. They're not going to be, I've never been in a long line at Chick-fil-A and they were stressed out with, oh my gosh, there's so many orders and they're mad and this and that. I've had one bad experience at Chick-fil-A. And let me tell you something. The only reason it was bad was because my expectation was this high. And it wasn't even bad. All it was that she was just like, she handed me the bag out the window and she was like, okay, thank you. And then she just turned around. I was like, oh, it's kind of shocking. Usually I'm waiting for a smile. But that was the worst. It wasn't even like anything bad. Like, but I was shocked at that because I'm so used to this high level. But
Mm-hmm.
it didn't ruin my experience because I get worse than that everywhere I go. So I want to drive that home to the people that are here listening, is that service is so important. Chick-fil-A still gets my money, and I don't even eat meat. And the only reason they get it is because I know I can go and get some fries and some chocolate chip cookies
Look, they
really
got
quickly.
they got a good breakfast burrito that you can get. Just tell them to hold the meat.
I did have that once, actually. I don't eat too much breakfast there. But,
Okay.
I do get their biscuits for breakfast, though.
Okay.
But yeah, that service is so important. And because even though I don't think their food is the best tasting, I only go back and spend my money because their service is impeccable. And
Yeah.
it kind of goes back to what Edwin says too, that service is once businesses in Haiti can master that service aspect, or whoever's the first to actually do it, or first couple of people to do it, they'll dominate those industries because service is so important. The second thing I want that leads into is a conversation I heard earlier today, surprisingly, not just amongst Haitian businesses, but businesses of color in general. And let me not even say color, I'll just say Black businesses, because of course we know we're dealing with that now.
Yeah.
So as we are now moving to this climate where everybody's now supporting Black businesses at this point, to really build up the economy of Black people and really push and grow and support Black businesses. Um, what advice would you give as for Black businesses, and I'd say businesses in Haiti because they kind of go through the same thing, because people don't expect good service from black owned businesses. And I actually had this conversation again yesterday. Well, somebody told me Tuesday actually, and they were saying they want to support Black businesses, but they just can't expect good service for the money that they're going to pay.
Yeah.
And what do you have to say to that? And I guess this is just because we have entrepreneurs online. We might have people that watch this video. How do we actually deal with this, where people don't trust the service right now when it comes to Caribbean or Black businesses?
Yeah, man. I think we as people, we have to like realize that it's not about us, right? It's about those that we are offering this product or this service to. And I think, it kind of goes back to revenue too, right? Black owned businesses, businesses of color, some of them do well, some of them don't. But I think that if they could begin to see that how great they could be if they improve their customer service, then that change could take place. But I think we just have to really get out of our own way, in a sense, if that makes sense. Because for me, I'm just thinking, if I was a Black-owned business owner of, maybe like a restaurant or some sort, my thinking is I'm only as good as the number of customers that come into this establishment, right? My growth is dependent on the number of clients that I have, or the number of clients that I can serve. And I just don't know if a number of the Black-owned businesses have that mindset, so to speak, because it's a big deal. And like I said earlier, like the foundation, I think a lot of it really, man, it's in getting the right people on board too.
Yeah.
Right. So, I share, these tips on how to make sure that you can provide good customer service. You also have to make sure that you have the right people in the right spot, right, on the bus. So, Johnny Sue might not be the best person to greet people at the
Yeah.
restaurant. Even though Johnny Sue applied for the greeter position, right? So now I'm going down the lane of, what the hiring process may be, right?
Yeah.
But, I think a lot of it is getting the right people on the bus, on
Yeah.
the right seat on the bus.
Right. And, I think one of the issues that we do have sometimes is that we might be the ones that are initially starting the business, right? And we, like you mentioned, we might not be the right person to interact with the customers,
Yeah.
right? And maybe that's something that we probably have to recognize or realize. Like if I know, like you were just speaking to Edwin earlier, you have to consciously know that, okay, I'm very brash in the way I speak, and maybe for the sake of the business, maybe I need to put somebody who's very understanding and empathetic up front so I can focus on this aspect or what I'm good at.
Right.
So I think because we start out, so small maybe, and maybe we don't have the people to hire at the point, sometimes we're not conscious of our shortcomings when it comes to customer service. And because of that, we end up trying to juggle too much. We're trying to be good, good at service, but we maybe don't take time to develop that. Maybe. But we're also trying to run the other aspect of the business. But even by the time, and I'm just making this analysis, this assessment, I could be wrong. By the time we do hire somebody else, I've been treating the customers so bad that when I bring that other person on, they don't even have a good example of what good customer service or culture is. Because I've just been trying to get by. And now that I got some help, we haven't really established. And I'll be honest, I think that, that was kind of the situation with my dad's business. He had really good he did really well for himself for a long time. But he never really built a culture with the business. So by the time, my sisters got into the business as well, and we tried to come in there and do some stuff. There was this whole revamping that we had to kind of do. Into dealing with people and how people actually perceived us, or anything like that.
So I want to kind of use that as a segue to a question that I see Edwin. He typed, right. He was saying, in terms of the customer journey, how do we communicate our culture before the client buys, right? Which I think is a really good question. And your example about like with your dad's business, it seems like you would then, now that you guys got involved, you would now have to begin to communicate, hey, it's a new culture, right?
Yeah.
Because it has been going a certain way for so long. And I think the answer to that question is, I think a lot of it goes into, the messaging that you push out to your clients, right? I'm not sure exactly what you guys may have done. And just from hearing this conversation, I believe Edwin has some background in like branding and marketing. So I think a lot of it goes back to, implementing a new marketing plan or a new marketing strategy, just to let them know that, hey, there has been a change, and not necessarily that the change is a negative change, right? So no one has to know that, hey, we're jumping in now because things haven't been going how we thought they should, so we the new sheriffs now. No, it doesn't have to be from that standpoint. It's just the messaging. It's like, hey, we like to welcome Ron Lee Say2 as our new manager of service. He's gonna, the message.
He believes in this,
Right.
kind of like, when you get a new university president, they come in with their mission and their plans and goals and say, hey,
right,
we have this new person, such and such as the CEO. And I guess I'm relating it back. Maybe I'll make it relative to somebody who is a startup over here, but maybe you can now hire a CEO while you're still the founder of your company, and just say, push the CEO's message and vision out there, so people can now get this new branding and culture. Right? Is that kind of what you're?
Right, and follow up with some type of action to where what you're saying is truthful, right? So it's like if you're putting that message out, within that message, some type of way you can invite them to go through that journey that you're communicating, right? So like Edwin said, he said, it's easy during and after the purchase, but we push it out there before. So when you push that messaging out, invite them to come through to see for themselves. So I think a lot of it is, that messaging you put out, but also making sure that it also is in place. They do come through to experience that. It's like, oh, okay, they told us we could expect this, and this is exactly what we received, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Do we have any other questions? I think we have a comment.
Real soul food is food. Amen.
Javedi said like some soul food, man. Dr. Sabi, what you know about Dr. Sabi, man? All right, cool. Well, before we end it up, man, Jeff, I want to go ahead and give you the opportunity to get the final words in, man. What do you want the audience to take away as business owners or as people who will be leading organizations or handing their customer service over to somebody else? What final words do you have for the audience?
Man, first I want to say, man, thank you to everyone who who's on the call, just for your attention, just for, being hungry to hear the message that I had to share. So thank you guys for that. But I guess final thoughts would be, and I'm not even just gonna like tie it back to, what we covered, but just be your authentic self. Recognize where your shortcomings are, and make sure that you are truthful with yourself about those shortcomings so that you can, make changes necessary to improve those areas. Because at the end of the day, your growth, like I said before, is only as far as the clients that you serve. So if you can understand where those shortcomings are early on, then I believe that that'll be great for your success, as it relates to, your organization, your business, all specifically tied to customer service.
All right. Thank you so much, Jeff. And tell me again, where can we find your book, my friend?
Man, you can go to Amazon.com. You're welcome. You can go to Amazon.com. You can simply type into the search box the title of the book. Let's see here. Be My Guest, a guide for creating an ultimate service experience. And you'll find it there on Amazon to make your purchase.
All right, so I put it in the chat for everybody. Got a lot of thank yous. They're showing you some love in the chat, man.
Yes, sir.
Jeff, man, of course, it's always a pleasure. This conversation is just like, it's just like us talking on the phone regularly, man. We always talk, man. So I appreciate you coming on, sharing this with the people, our audience, our followers. I definitely, of course, for you all that don't know, we're definitely going to have Jeff as well. I'm trying to get him to come back to be a instructor for BEL 2020, or the COVID class, at least 2021. I think customer service is so important. I do think it's important for businesses in Haiti. I think it's important definitely now for Black businesses. And that's because as customer service increases, you want to make sure you retain those customers and you know how to treat them. And me and Jeff talked about customer service. I don't know, we've had countless conversations on this. And you know, it's like a pet peeve of mine to have bad service.
Yeah.
And so I hope that you all got something out of this. Please keep in touch with Jeff. If you can share your information again so they can get a screenshot of that. If you have any questions, reach out to Jeff. That's his phone number. That's his email. Thank you all again. Subscribe to the BEL YouTube channel and definitely look out for our next BEL session, which I think will be interesting too. Jeff, I got to bring you back for something else. Somebody just texted me. I was like, oh, I should have. Well, I'll talk to you offline about that. But again, thank you. Merci tout le monde. You all have a good night and God bless you all. Till next time. See you then. All right.
You want me to